do workouts, pull things back a little bit and get a baseline and then start kind of transitioning slowly. I think that's the best way to go forward with it.
Yeah, and I love that you keep bringing up stress because I think that's the easy to ignore but super important part of health that doesn't get talked about enough. And I say that as a recovering perfectionist and super type A, that for so long I was just like, oh, I'll just push through. I can work harder. I can do better. And at least for me, that was a big key in figuring out my own health problems was I had to learn how to sleep and I had to learn how to address stress. Because even though mentally I was great, I could push through and be fine, my body wasn't feeling that. And I think for women especially, there are just typically a lot of stresses, especially for moms, that we deal with on a daily basis. So I love that you kept bringing that up first and foremost of like, don't give your body one more stressor if it's already really, really stressed. And also to the pregnancy and breastfeeding side, obviously those are not times when any doctor would typically recommend that a woman be on a keto diet or certainly not a carnivore diet or anything like that. But I will say, having done a lot of research on this topic, that I don't think you should specifically avoid anything other than maybe sugar while you're pregnant, but we do know that women who eat, like you said, more protein when they're pregnant and get enough healthy fats, but not extreme amounts, typically have better birth outcomes because you do need a ton of protein to grow an entire human being. So I like that you brought that point up about protein content. And I think that could be like a very big key for a lot of women is actually eating more food, because for so long the diet industry has said, eat less, move more, eat less, move more. And for women, maybe it's actually we need to eat more, especially protein, and move more. But what's your take on that?
Yeah, I think you nailed it, and it exactly comes back to the points I was making before about total caloric load and total protein load. Like I don't think that people generally need to like extreme overeat or anything like that. But I mean, times of pregnancy, things like that are obviously extenuating circumstances where I think that nutrition should be looked at a little bit differently. Again, it's a tool, and I think the tool, like you want the tool to be building another human being, and so whatever that takes, and like you said, increasing the amount of food, increasing the amount of protein to have that buffer on that end is super important.
Awesome. So another question I get a lot with the increasing popularity of, you mentioned a little bit exogenous ketones, but also different types of oils and fats, MCTs. I'm curious your take on those and if they have a place in a keto diet, and if so, how to integrate them.
Yeah. So exogenous ketones, first of all, I mean, obviously I'm biased. So full disclosure, I have a company that we offer exogenous ketones. A lot of people hate on me for promoting them when I have something like that. Like of course, I think that they're appropriate. That's why I have them as a product, and that's why I want them in the world. There's just so much research coming out right now. I mean, most of it is showing that even with carbohydrates, exogenous ketones. So like if you're not in a state of ketosis, but supplement with ketones, you have mental clarity boost, you have inflammation reduction, you have anxiety reduction, you have depression reduction, you have energy improvement, you have metabolism improvement, you have insulin sensitivity boosts. Like the amount of benefits that are not coming out are just astounding. And so this is something where, like, again, you look at nutrition as a tool. I use a ketogenic diet as a way for me to be more mentally sharp. I do not use it for weight loss. I don't use it for anything else. Essentially what I use it for is to keep, I was super overweight when I was younger. I think that I feel way better on a low carb diet in general, but I think that my mental performance is hands down much better on a ketogenic diet. And so that's why I use it. And so this is one of the things where people can try them and see and get the feedback loop of, wow, a ketogenic diet might be right for me. And it might spark some interest as far as what can a ketogenic diet feel like, because people take it and they feel like, for instance, effortless energy. And that's something that I think is super, super valuable. So I think that times to use that. I just flew from New York to Paris a couple of days ago, and I used it on the flight because I just fasted through it and I felt 100% fine and my energy was super high. And when in places when I switch time zones, I use it as far as instead of coffee and things like that to keep energy super high. I use it in the morning in addition or replacement of coffee to, again, have the mental energy output for me super, super high. For a lot of people when they're switching into a ketogenic diet, your body doesn't really know yet that it should be switching away from carbohydrates to using fats for fuel. And so it doesn't really have the same pathways that somebody who's fully keto adapted would to start breaking down fat for ketones to be using in your bloodstream. And so when you just shoot that stuff in your bloodstream, your body goes, oh, okay, I can start using this now. That sounds really good. And so it starts using up those ketones and switching into a ketogenic diet a little bit faster and a little bit easier. It can help subside cravings and hunger issues of people who have metabolic issues. I just think there's tons of uses for it. Do I think it's 100% necessary? Absolutely not. This is something that's not real food. I think that things that are not real food are just not 100% necessary. But I think that can be helpful. Yes, 100% it can be helpful. Same goes for MCT oils and things like that. And so think about BHB, which is beta hydroxybutyrate, which is a ketone body. That's what you get from exogenous ketones. MCT oil, which is medium chain triglycerides, are essentially the precursors to beta hydroxybutyrate or to ketones. And so think about it, if you look at it on a graph, that exogenous ketones basically provide you with immediate and intense energy, huge spike. MCT oil and MCT oil powder, what that does is it provides you with a more long-lasting kind of the same effect. And so you're getting a lot of the same types of energy boosts. You're getting a lot of the same types of metabolic differences. And that's where the benefit from that comes. Again, do I think it's 100% necessary? Nope. I think that real food, hands down, is what is necessary and 100% required. I think that these are things, again, look at what they say on the package. They are a supplement. They should be supplementing a real food, whole food diet and not replacing anything. I don't think they should be replacing anything. I don't think that they are 100% necessary, but I think they are extremely helpful and extremely additive. And so again, when we're talking about, the fasting mimicking diet and what that does, it helps with compliance. I think that these products also drastically help with compliance of shifting somebody from a carbohydrate-rich diet into a ketogenic state. And so I think that switching that over and maintaining energy status and feeling really, really great, they can be very, very helpful in that regard.
Got it. That was a great synopsis. And a question I love to ask as we get close to wrapping up, you've already mentioned several books and I've added them to my reading list, but I love to ask if there's a book that has had a really big impact on you personally or that you like to recommend.
Ooh, wow. I think that that's a tough question to answer because I think that a book like, I don't know if you've heard the quote, like you never read the same book twice. I think that they're so personal and timing is really so relevant. I think that if I had never read 4 Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss when I first moved to San Francisco 6 years ago, I would have not been doing what I'm doing now. So I think as far as sheer influence, that is one of the main ones for me. I think that recently, in the last couple of years, just as far as thinking about my place in life, 12 Rules for Life by Jordan B. Peterson is probably high up there as a close second.
That is a good one. And lastly, if there's a piece of advice that you could give to a lot of people, especially to everyone listening. I know we've talked about a lot of topics, but I'm curious if there's advice that you could impart. What would it be and why?
Yeah, if it isn't clear already, I would say eat food that spoils, eat real food, eat stuff that grows locally and is in season. And I think that as long as you nail that, you're nailing a lot in life.
I love it. Dr. Gustin, thank you so much for being here. I think you answered a lot of questions that I've been getting a lot recently and hopefully helped a lot of people navigate the world of keto and understanding all of these new types of diets and when they have their place. So I really appreciate your time and being here, especially with the time difference. I'm honored that you took the time.
Thank you so much for having me.
And thanks to all of you for listening. And I hope to see you again next time on the Wellness Mama podcast. If you're enjoying these interviews, would you please take 2 minutes to leave a rating or review on iTunes for me? Doing this helps more people to find the podcast, which means even more moms and families can benefit from the information. I really appreciate your time, and thanks as always for listening.